So what does this course cover? We start with a brief Yocto introduction. The first subject we look at is where Yocto fits in the embedded Linux development ecosystem. We talk about the existing alternatives and the very basics of Yocto. Yocto usage with Docker focuses on getting our development environment set up to be able to use Yocto. For this we will use Docker. You could use a virtual machine or a native Linux distribution which has support for Yocto, but later we will discuss the pros and cons of each. After running our Docker container and downloading Yocto, we also build our first image and run it using QEMU, mainly to validate our setup. We also take that opportunity to build a Raspberry Pi bootable image and also do some basic customization on it. Next up is some explanation of the core components of Yocto in considerable detail. These sections are the most dense in this course and the most difficult to follow in my opinion, because they might have a lot of new information and concepts. At least for me, Yocto in the beginning was difficult to grasp. I think the best approach is not to take that chapter too seriously, because once you get into the practical sessions, you can revisit that information or just consult the documentation as you go in order to consolidate your knowledge. We then look at creating recipes and layers. Layers can be of different types, such as board support package, distribution, image, or general application layers. From here on, the chapters are mostly hands-on. We create our first Raspberry Pi image layer and incrementally add components introducing new workflows as we go. Ultimately, you will end up creating your custom Yocto Linux distribution. We look at recipes which integrate different technologies and build systems. We will also learn how to create recipes with patches and recipes that depend on functionality from existing layers. We'll discuss package management, which is useful because you don't want to repeat the process of compiling and flashing a whole image. If you're only developing a specific application, you can just install it directly on the target. We also discuss how to create your own SDK, which is basically a toolchain you can use outside of the Yocto environment. We will go also through the usage of some tools Yocto provides us, such as DevShell and DevTool, which are useful for debugging and general development. Finally, we take a look at how to customize common embedded Linux components, such as the Linux Kernel and BusyBox. At the end, we also have bonus chapters, such as building a Raspberry Pi image that boots up Kodi, a common media center application. It also depends on your feedback. I don't plan on including a lot of Raspberry Pi peripheral-specific development, such as blinking LEDs or controlling some peripheral via I2C or the SPI bus, mainly because I don't have any at hand, but if you feel that is lacking, please let me know.